Hey there folks, and welcome back to the I Am CDB project. Of course, I'm your host CDB, you're not, and today we're going to do a shaving video with Catie's Bubbles La Pinte de la Vie LPV, as it's affectionately known. Really nice soap, almost impossible to describe. I think it has like a cinnamon-like scent to it to some degree. There's some sweetness to it, some spiciness. Really, really good soap. Was one of the soaps that put Catie's Bubbles on the map, I do believe. A lot of people really liked the scent, and so they went for it, and the rest is history. We will be using the Wolfman WR1 razor here, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, we have the finest lathering bowl in the world, the timeless bowl here, and we're going to be using the sterling synthetic, which is quite good as well. So let me wet the face and we'll get going. Stay tuned. All right, so here we go with our Catie's Bubbles LPV and our sterling synthetic, which is really nice for the price. I don't even remember what it costs now, but I remember it's a steal, and it's a really nice functioning synthetic brush. Looks good, works well. Well priced, which are all big time pluses in my book, of course. And the Catie's Bubbles LPV, of course, is an excellent soap, which you've seen me use before. Not for a long time, I don't think, but it is a good one. Really good soap. Sort of takes me back to this might have been the first Catie's Bubbles soap I've ever bought. I'm not sure, but it sure is good. Chris Cullen, of course, makes some really fine soaps and, of course, other products, and he is a good fella, so you can buy with confidence, in my opinion. All right, and let's see how we do with the Wolfman WR1, which is absolutely one of the finest razors ever produced. I don't think there's any question about it. It really is a fine razor. The question is the price increase. Now, I don't know that this one specifically will be increased at that level, but the communication James from Wolfman put out the other day was he was raising his prices to $500 Canadian, which is somewhere around $400 US, I believe. And I thought, jeez, you know, as I said before, this is a really incredible razor, but is it $200 more special than a timeless, you know, one of their premium offerings? No, not in my opinion. Although I must say it's truly excellent. I think this razor will now appeal at its price tag to folks who like the idea of owning a $400 razor. Or like the idea of owning things that maybe others can't afford. Those folks that just like to buy elite products for the sake of buying them. Now, that doesn't mean it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's really good. Again, one of the finest razors ever. But at its current price, if it had been that way, I would have never had one, because I simply will not pay that for a razor, have not ever, and will not. There's no razor that I've ever used that I felt worth that kind of money. Now, for others, it is, and so they'll still sell. And he is an absolute magician when it comes to making these razors, but $400 US is just too much. Bottom line, it would have to really perform miracles to be worth that to me. All right, stay tuned. We'll come back for pass two. All right, and so while I'm lathering up here, I'll tell you a story about another quite expensive razor, which at one time was really my favorite razor, but things changed. And as you try things, things will change. What's your favorite today may not be tomorrow as you continue to, try things. But anyhow, the one blade, which is somewhere I think around 400 bucks now. Again, in my opinion, way too much, although it is a fine razor. I love the one blade. I got it in a trade, and I paid about half of its asking price because the razor that I traded for it was a $200 razor, which is still a lot for a razor. That's in the premium realm for sure. But anyhow, so I got the one blade, and it's marvelous, marvelously made, really fantastic. The only thing I really didn't like about it was the feather blades, those one-use blades, the allegedly one-use blades. I didn't think those were really quality blades. I would try to use it on my head, and I couldn't even make it through one head shave with those crummy blades. So anyway, I thought that was one of the greatest razors I've ever used. It has the pivot, and it sort of glides along. Really nice, extremely well made. And then this summer, or spring, or whenever, last spring, when I started using carts on my head, I decided to try them on my face, and I tried a single edge cart, like just a cheap old Gillette Pro Guard, and then some other, multi blade carts, and I realized that they were very similar to the one blade. Like if I take this Harry's razor, it pivots and it sort of glides along, much like the one blade. And after I used them and compared them, and in particular carts with a single edge, I found that the one blade feels pretty much like a cart. It pivots like a cart. The only difference is it's made of premium materials. This is just me talking. Don't get me wrong. Again, I think that the one blade is a fine razor. But after using carts, I found it too similar to carts, because I said, well, I can really do what this thing is doing with a cart. And so why do I need this, super premium, high-end stainless steel razor that basically, for me, again, me talking, didn't do anything a cart couldn't do. And so I got rid of it as well. So now I don't have it. It would, I guarantee you one thing, folks. Had I not tried carts on my face, today I would still be maintaining that one blade's one of the greatest razors I've ever had and used. But once I tried the cart, it was so similar, I said, it's almost the same. It feels the same. It does the same thing. It gets me to the same place. So when you try different things, sometimes you find out that maybe things you've been told in this community or your preconceived notions can be wrong. So, leave an open mind is my advice to you. Stay tuned. We'll come back for past 3. So anyhow, I think a lot of times with these super premium tier products, the idea of having them, having something expensive, having something that looks very nice, because the one blade is killer looking razor. It looks super modern, and it is a good razor, folks. Don't get me wrong. I'm not cracking on one blade, because I still think it's a outstanding razor. Just for me personally, I ended up realizing that, hey, these carts do the same doggone thing and feel almost identical to me, and certainly they do a much better job on the head. I couldn't use the head blade the one blade for the head, because it was terrible. It was great on the face, terrible on the head, and the blades that you buy specifically for it, they just weren't very good for me personally. They were good for a face shave, but useless for a head shave. And anyway, as I experimented again, found out, hey, the cart, it feels very similar. So, don't get locked in to thinking something is the absolute greatest. Continue to try things if you want to. Now, you don't have to go out and buy everything, because I'm talking about premium gear here. As it, if you pay a lot of money for a razor, your inclination is to like it. Of course, what I mean by don't get locked in is don't think that just because something carries a very expensive price tag that you have purchased the greatest of all time. All right. Now on software and soaps, I think they've all reached sort of a plateau. You'll see incremental improvements, of course, but software to me has plateaued somewhat. Hardware, you know, you'll still find things that work better for you than others. But don't think just because you're paying a lot of money that you're getting a, you know, the best. It might be the best looking, but it may not be the best for you. And if you try other things, you might find that cheap old rinky-dink things work just as well. The $400 razors out there, you know, obviously for people who have that kind of discretionary income, I can buy, but I'm not going to. I can, but I won't. There's just no compelling reason. And I have tried enough over the years to realize that there's not a compelling reason to do it, because I'm not one of these guys out on the golf course with checkered pants and a salmon jacket and loafers, you know, bragging about what all I have or trying to impress people. I'm well beyond that stage. That is not anything I'm interested in. Really never has been, to tell you the truth. So if you're buying things that are super expensive with the idea that they're going to perform better, there's absolutely no guarantee that that will be the case. Stay tuned, we'll be back for the post. All right, here we are back with the Magic Made by Witches. Thayer's Witch Hazel, which of course is great stuff, and we shall apply some to the face here. And while we let that set for just a moment, we'll talk a little bit about the gear we used today. Catie's Bubbles, LPV, you saw the wonderful lather. It's a great performer. Great soap, always has been. Wolfman, WR1, definitely one of the best razors. In terms of craftsmanship, it's absolutely top-notch. There's no doubt about it. One of the finest razors ever produced. $400 razor? Honestly, for me, no. It's certainly among the best produced, but to me, that's too much for any razor, period. Of course, we have the Timeless bowl, which is the greatest lathering bowl in the world. Bowl of the gods, as I like to call it, tongue-in-cheek. And we have our Sterling Synthetic, which you saw here. This was really a wonderful shave, and we'll throw on a little Folsom and Company black powder today, which I think sort of fits with Catie's Bubbles LPV. Not that you have to match. It's not a dead ringer match, but it just seems right. It just seems like a fit. As I've always told you folks, I don't pay any attention to this summer, winter, sin, and all that. I use what I want to use when I want to use it. Nothing makes me happier than using the product that I want to use on any given day. I'm not going to be a slave to seasons with respect to scent. And maybe that makes me lowbrow, but so be it. All right. Thanks as always for watching, folks. Until next time, I've been your host, CDB. You are not. God bless.